The galactic survey ship times Zenith's edge times drifted silently through Earth's outer atmosphere, its advanced sensors recording every detail of the planet below. Commander Vex's tie of the Catherian Empire stood before the main observation deck, her forearms crossed in contemplation as she watched the strange blue world rotate beneath them. Fascinating creatures, these humans, she murmured to her science officer, Moore, whose insectoid features twitched with curiosity. 3 cycles of observation, and I still struggle to understand their society. Moore's compound eyes shifted through their data tablets, scrolling through thousands of hours of recorded human behavior. Indeed, Commander, they appear to be the most peaceful species we've encountered in this sector, perhaps in the entire galaxy. On the massive display screen, scenes of human daily life played in sequence. Children walked alongside 4-legged creatures with wagging tails. Elderly humans sat on benches while small, furry animals rested contentedly in their laps. Young adults jogged through parks with energetic canines bounding beside them. Look at this, Moore highlighted a particular scene. The humans allow these creatures, which they call dogs, to live inside their dwelling spaces. They share their food, their sleeping areas, even their recreational time. The emotional bond is unlike anything in our databases. Vextai nodded slowly. And cats. Don't forget the cats. The humans actually serve these smaller predators, cleaning waste receptacles for them, providing food on demand. Some humans modify their entire daily schedules around these creatures' needs. The science officer brought up another recording. A human family gathered around one of the 4-legged animals, celebrating what appeared to be the creature's hatching day. They had decorated their home, prepared special food, and even presented gifts to the animal. The psychological dependency is remarkable, Moore observed. Our behavioral analysis indicates that humans form primary emotional attachments to these creatures, sometimes stronger than their bonds with other humans. When separated from their animals, humans display signs of severe distress, depression, and anxiety. Commander Vextai walked to another display showing human military installations. Even there, the pattern continued. Human soldiers kept these companion animals at their bases, in their vehicles, sometimes even in combat zones. Their military forces are the most telling evidence, she said, gesturing to the screen. Look how they integrate these animals into their fighting units. Not as weapons or tools, but as emotional support. They risk their lives to protect these creatures during conflicts. We've recorded instances where human soldiers abandoned tactical advantages to rescue wounded animals. The recordings showed human soldiers carrying injured dogs from battlefield zones, medics treating wounded animals alongside wounded humans, and entire military operations halted to search for missing companion animals. According to our cultural analysis, Moore continued, humans spend approximately 600 billion of their currency units annually just on these creatures. Food, medical care, entertainment, specialized clothing, even funeral services when the animals die. It's economically illogical, yet universally practiced across their species. Vextai reviewed the economic data with amazement. The humans had created entire industries around animal care. Specialized medical facilities, staffed with doctors dedicated solely to animal health. Educational institutions teaching humans how to better understand animal behavior. Research facilities developing technologies to extend animal lifespans and improve their quality of life. The strangest part, Moore noted, is how this affects their aggression patterns. Humans who interact regularly with these animals show significantly lower levels of violence, reduced territorial behavior, and increased cooperative tendencies. The animals seemed to function as natural pacifiers. The data was undeniable. Human societies with higher rates of animal companionship reported lower crime rates, fewer military conflicts, and more stable social structures. Cities with large populations of companion animals had peaceful protest movements instead of violent uprisings. Nations with strong animal protection laws rarely engaged in aggressive military actions. It's evolutionary genius, Vextai mused. Somehow, this species has essentially domesticated itself through proxy. By forming emotional bonds with naturally peaceful animals, They've suppressed their own aggressive instincts. The observation team had documented countless examples. Humans would cross busy transportation routes to help injured animals. They formed organizations dedicated to rescuing animals from dangerous situations. Some humans even changed their entire dietary habits to avoid causing harm to animals they'd never met. Look at this behavioral pattern. Keelmore pulled up another file. When humans encounter lost or stray animals, they consistently attempt to help, even when it poses personal risk or inconvenience. They've created massive networks for reuniting animals with their families, often spending their own resources without any expectation of reward. The recordings showed humans stopping their vehicles on busy highways to rescue animals, organizing community-wide searches for missing pets, and crowdfunding medical treatments for animals belonging to strangers. The behavior was consistent across all human cultures and social levels. Their conflict resolution methods have been completely transformed by this relationship, Vextai observed. When humans disagree, they often use their animals as mediators. The presence of these creatures actually reduces tension and promotes peaceful discussion. The analysis revealed that human negotiations involving animal welfare consistently resulted in cooperative agreements rather than competitive outcomes. International treaties protecting animal habitats had some of the strongest compliance rates in human history. Environmental conservation efforts gained support not through economic incentives, but through emotional appeals involving animal welfare. Most remarkably, Keelmore added, humans have developed what they call therapy animals. Creatures specifically trained to provide emotional support during traumatic situations. They bring these animals into hospitals, disaster zones, even courtrooms to reduce stress and promote healing. The data showed dogs visiting children in medical facilities, cats living in elderly care homes, and various animals helping humans recover from psychological trauma. The therapeutic relationship had become so integral to human society that many institutions required animal interaction as part of their standard treatment protocols. Vextai studied recordings of human military training facilities. Even there, the pattern held. Dogs worked alongside human soldiers not as weapons, but as companions. The animals detected dangers, provided emotional support during difficult missions, and even performed rescue operations. But most importantly, they seemed to maintain the human's emotional stability during high-stress situations. The tactical implications are clear, she said. Any species that has evolved such dependency on emotional pacifiers would struggle in genuine military conflict. Their decision-making processes are compromised by emotional attachments. Their strategic thinking is clouded by concern for creature welfare. Keelmore nodded enthusiastically. Precisely. We've observed human military units abandon advantageous positions to create safe zones for animals. They've diverted crucial resources to evacuate creatures from combat areas. Some units have even refused orders that might endanger animal companions. The intelligence reports painted a picture of a species fundamentally limited by their emotional bonds. Human space exploration missions included specially designed habitats for animals. Their colonization efforts prioritized creature comfort alongside human needs. Even their most advanced military technologies incorporated features to protect and care for companion animals. The Hegemony Council will find this assessment most interesting, Vextai noted, referring to the galactic government that had sent them to evaluate Earth, a species capable of achieving faster-than-light travel and advanced artificial intelligence, yet emotionally dependent on primitive four-legged creatures. It's almost tragically vulnerable. The cultural analysis had revealed that humans formed such strong bonds with their animals that losing a pet often resulted in grief comparable to losing family members. Entire human societies observed periods of mourning when well-known animals died. Some humans never recovered emotionally from losing their animal companions, affecting their productivity and social interactions for years. Their literature, entertainment, and art forms consistently portray positive relationships with animals as morally superior, Keelmore observed. Humans who harm animals are universally depicted as villains, while those who protect them are celebrated as heroes. This cultural programming has deeply embedded pacifist tendencies throughout their species. The media analysis showed countless stories of humans sacrificing personal gain to help animals, traveling great distances to reunite lost pets with families, and choosing careers in animal care, despite lower economic rewards. The narrative patterns reinforced cooperative behavior and discouraged aggressive or competitive instincts. When the hegemony moves to incorporate this system into our empire, resistance should be minimal. Vex, Tai concluded. Their attachment to these creatures makes them predictable and manageable. We simply need to guarantee the safety of their animals, and they'll comply with any reasonable governance structure. The strategic assessment seemed obvious. Humans valued animal welfare over territorial control, emotional bonds over resource acquisition, and peaceful coexistence over military dominance. Their entire civilization had evolved around nurturing relationships with creatures that provided no tactical advantage, no economic benefit, and no strategic value. Recommend classification. Peaceful integration candidate, Kilmore suggested. Minimal security precautions needed. Primary motivation. Creature welfare protection. Optimal approach. Cooperative governance with guaranteed animal rights. As the Time Zenith's Edge Times prepared to transmit its findings to the Hegemony Council, neither Commander Vex Tai nor Science Officer Kilmore noticed the subtle details their sensors had missed. They hadn't observed the centuries of careful breeding programs that had shaped both human and animal companions into perfectly synchronized partnerships. They hadn't analyzed the deep evolutionary history that had created unbreakable bonds between species. Most importantly, they had never witnessed what happened when those bonds were threatened. The report transmitted across the galaxy painted a picture of a gentle species, emotionally dependent on animal companions, culturally programmed for peace, and strategically vulnerable due to their emotional attachments. The Hegemony Council received the assessment with great satisfaction. Finally, a technologically advanced civilization that wouldn't require military conquest. They began planning their peaceful integration protocols immediately, but in the depths of space, other powers had also been watching Earth. The Catherian Empire wasn't the only faction interested in the resource-rich system. The Vorthan Collective had been monitoring human transmissions for decades, and they had reached very different conclusions about human nature. The Vorthans had studied human history more carefully. They had analyzed human responses to genuine threats against their companion animals. They had observed what humans called protective instincts, and correctly identified them as redirected hunting behaviors. As the Hegemony prepared their peaceful integration fleet, the Vorthans launched their own ships toward Earth. But the Collective had no interest in cooperation or negotiation. They had simpler plans. The humans' emotional bonds with animals weren't weaknesses to be exploited. They were triggers to be activated. The war began 3 months later. When Vorthan raiders attacked a human colony on the outer rim of the solar system, the raid itself was tactically insignificant, a small mining outpost with minimal defensive capabilities. But the Vorthans made one critical error in their assault planning. The colony's primary settlement included a veterinary research facility housing over 3,000 companion animals belonging to the human families stationed there. When the attack began, the colonists had exactly 47 minutes to choose between evacuating themselves or saving their animals. They chose both. What followed changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. The supposedly peaceful species that had been classified as emotionally dependent and tactically vulnerable proved to have capabilities that no alien intelligence had properly assessed. The true nature of the human-animal bond was about to be revealed, and it would reshape the balance of power across the known universe. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the command center of New Eden Colony, watching the tactical displays with growing horror. Vorthan ships had appeared without warning, jamming communications and deploying ground forces with ruthless efficiency. The colony's modest defenses were already failing under the coordinated assault. "Evacuation status report," she barked to her communications officer. "Civilian shelters are at 70% capacity, Captain. But we have a problem." Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice carried a strain that made Chen's stomach tighten. "The veterinary research facility is requesting additional time. They can't move the animals fast enough through the standard evacuation procedures." Chen pulled up the facility's schematics on her display. 3,000 companion animals from across the colony. Dogs, cats, rabbits, birds, and dozens of other species that families had brought with them to the frontier. The research facility had been studying how different Earth animals adapted to alien environments. But more importantly, it served as a temporary shelter when families traveled or faced emergencies. How much time do they need? Chen asked. At least 2 hours to safely evacuate all animals with their transport carriers. The Vorthans will breach our perimeter in 30 minutes. Chen stared at the tactical projection. Standard military protocol was clear. Evacuate human personnel first, secure critical equipment second, abandon everything else. 3,000 animals represented an enormous logistical burden that could compromise the entire evacuation, but as she looked at the display, Chen wasn't seeing tactical assets or resource allocation problems. She was seeing Max, her German shepherd who had been her partner for 8 years. She was seeing the therapy cats that helped colonist children adjust to life on an alien world. She was seeing the service dogs that assisted disabled colonists, the emotional support animals that kept families stable during the isolation of frontier life. "Captain," Rodriguez said urgently, "we need to make a decision. The transport ships are requesting immediate departure authorization." Chen keyed her communicator to the colony-wide emergency frequency. "Attention all evacuation zones. This is Captain Chen. We're adjusting the evacuation timeline. Priority Alpha is now extended to include all companion animals currently in the veterinary facility. All available personnel are to assist with animal evacuation procedures immediately." Rodriguez looked at her with surprise. "Captain, that's going to delay our departure by at least 90 minutes. The Vorthans will learn something important today," Chen interrupted. "Send a message to Admiral Harrison on the Times. Resolution **. Tell him we need immediate military support for extended evacuation operations." What Chen didn't know was that Admiral Michael Harrison had been having similar conversations aboard the UEF flagship Times, Resolution Times, as it raced toward New Eden. The Vorthan attack had triggered automated emergency protocols throughout the United Earth Federation's military command structure. But the responses were unlike anything alien observers had anticipated. "Admiral," reported Commander Williams from the tactical station, "we're receiving evacuation requests from 17 different colony worlds. Standard procedure would be to prioritize based on strategic value and population density." Harrison studied the holographic display showing Vorthan forces spreading across human territory. Each attacked colony had the same story: civilian populations trapped with their companion animals, refusing to abandon their pets even under direct military threat. "Sir," Williams continued, "I'm also receiving some unusual requests from our fleet commanders. Captain Rodriguez on the Times Defiant Times is asking permission to deploy her ship's entire marine contingent to secure animal evacuation routes on Kepler Station. Commander Park wants to use the Times Thunderbolt's Times cargo bays for emergency animal transport instead of military equipment." Harrison nodded slowly. "Approved." "All of it, sir?" Williams looked confused. "That's going to significantly impact our tactical capabilities. We'll be using military resources for—" "Commander," Harrison interrupted, "you've been studying alien intelligence reports on human behavior for the past 3 months. What did they conclude about our relationship with our animals?" Williams reviewed his tactical tablet. "That we're emotionally dependent, sir. That our attachment to companion animals represents a strategic weakness that makes us vulnerable to psychological manipulation and tactical compromise." "Exactly," Harrison said. "They think our animals make us weak. Today, they're going to learn the opposite." The Admiral activated the fleet-wide communication system. "Attention all UEF vessels. This is Admiral Harrison. The Vorthan Collective has made a critical miscalculation. They've attacked civilian populations that include our companion animals. Priority 1 is now the protection and evacuation of all human and animal personnel from threatened areas. Any commander who needs to modify tactical deployment to ensure animal safety is authorized to do so immediately." The response was instantaneous. Across the fleet, ships changed course toward threatened colonies. Marine units reconfigured their equipment loads to include animal transport containers. Medical teams prepared veterinary supplies alongside human trauma kits. Engineering crews began modifying cargo spaces for rapid animal evacuation. But the most significant changes were happening at the individual level. In the crew quarters of the Times, Resolution Asterisk, Master Sergeant Patricia Kim was strapping on her combat armor, while her border collie mix, Scout, watched attentively from his bed. "Not this time, buddy," she said softly. "You stay safe on the ship." Scout tilted his head and gave a small whine. He had been Kim's partner through 2 previous deployments, trained to detect explosives and provide tactical support during reconnaissance missions. More importantly, he had been her constant companion during the PTSD recovery that followed her injury on Proxima Base. Kim knelt down and scratched Scout's ears. "I'll be back, I promise." What Kim didn't realize was that similar scenes were playing out throughout the fleet. Lieutenant James Murphy was saying goodbye to Luna, his therapy cat who had helped him manage anxiety attacks during deep space missions. Corporal Maria Santos was leaving Rocket, her rescued pit bull who had become the unofficial mascot of her Marine unit. Each separation was personal, emotional, and deeply motivating. On New Eden Colony, the extended evacuation was revealing capabilities that alien observers had never documented. Colonist David Park had worked as a veterinary technician before joining the colonization program. When the animal evacuation began, he moved through the facility with practiced efficiency, coordinating transport cages and medical supplies with military precision. "Transport Q7 needs to prioritize the critical care animals," he called to the volunteer teams. "The animals on life support get the secured environmental pods. Everyone else loads by size and species compatibility." What alien intelligence reports had classified as emotional dependency was actually revealing itself as sophisticated logistical coordination. Human colonists worked together with flawless teamwork, each person instinctively understanding their role in the evacuation process. Parents coordinated childcare so adults could help with animal transport. Elderly colonists provided organizational oversight, while younger volunteers handled physical labor. But the most remarkable thing was happening among the animals themselves. Dogs that had never worked together were following evacuation commands from any human voice. Cats were remaining calm in transport carriers, sensing the urgency of the situation. Even normally skittish animals like rabbits and birds were cooperating with handling procedures. "This is incredible," reported Dr. Lisa Warren, the facility's lead veterinarian, as she supervised the evacuation. "The animals are responding to human stress patterns. They're actively helping with their own rescue." The human-animal bond that aliens had identified as a tactical weakness was functioning as a force multiplier. Animals trained to read human emotional cues were instinctively cooperating with emergency procedures. Dogs were helping guide other animals toward transport areas. Cats were remaining calm to avoid panic behaviors that might disrupt the evacuation. Service animals were continuing their trained support roles, helping disabled humans navigate the chaos while simultaneously being evacuated themselves. Captain Chen monitored the progress from her command center, watching as the impossible became routine. Her colonists were evacuating 3,000 animals in 90 minutes, using procedures they had never practiced, equipment they had improvised, and coordination protocols they had developed on the fly. "Captain," Rodriguez reported, "we're at 85% animal evacuation. The last transport is loading now." "And human evacuation?" 100% complete 30 minutes ago. No one left until the animals were safe." Chen nodded, unsurprised. She keyed her communicator to the evacuation ships. "All transports, this is New Eden Command. You are clear for immediate departure. Safe travels." As the evacuation ships disappeared into hyperspace, Chen prepared to join the final defense team that would delay Vorthan ground forces, while the colony's self-destruct systems activated. But as she moved toward the emergency exit, she heard a familiar bark from the communications room. Lieutenant Rodriguez emerged carrying a small terrier mix in his arms. "Sorry, Captain. This is Sage. She's the colony's communications mascot. Somehow got missed in the evacuation count." Chen looked at the dog, then at Rodriguez. "Well, we can't leave a team member behind." What neither of them realized was that this small decision would become the turning point in the war. The Vorthans had expected to capture New Eden Colony within hours, securing valuable mining equipment and taking human prisoners for intelligence gathering. Instead, they found an abandoned facility with evidence of the most efficient evacuation in military history. Vorthan Commander Zithkar stood in the empty veterinary facility, studying the abandoned animal habitats with growing confusion. His intelligence briefings had described humans as emotionally dependent on these creatures, suggesting that threatening the animals would paralyze human decision-making and create tactical advantages for Vorthan forces. "Report," he ordered his tactical officer. "The facility was evacuated completely, Commander. No humans, no animals, no equipment of tactical value. They managed to remove everything in less than 2 hours." Zithkar examined the evacuation routes. The logistics were flawless. Transport carriers organized by size and species. Medical supplies distributed according to animal health needs. Emergency protocols that prioritized animal welfare while maintaining human safety standards. This wasn't emotional dependency, he realized aloud. This was operational excellence. The tactical officer nodded nervously. "Commander, our intelligence reports may have been inaccurate. The humans didn't abandon their animals to save themselves. They successfully evacuated both populations simultaneously." As Zithkar processed this information, alarms began sounding throughout his command ship. Long-range sensors were detecting massive human fleet movements. Ships that should have been scattered across the galaxy were converging on Vorthan positions with unprecedented coordination and speed. "Commander," his communications officer reported with growing panic, "we're receiving challenge transmissions from approaching human vessels. They're not requesting our surrender. They're demanding the immediate return of any captured animals." Zithkar felt his tactical confidence evaporating. The Vorthans had captured exactly 0 animals during their raids, but the human fleet was approaching as if the aliens had committed an unforgivable act of aggression. "Sir," the tactical officer said quietly, "I don't think we understood what we were attacking." In the depths of space, the UEF fleet was discovering what it meant when an entire species had their protective instincts activated simultaneously. Ships that normally operated independently were functioning as coordinated pack units. Crews that had seemed emotionally dependent on their animals were revealing tactical capabilities that no alien civilization had anticipated. The war was about to begin in earnest, and the galaxy would learn that humans weren't peaceful because of their pets. They were dangerous because of what they were willing to do to protect them. The Battle of Kepler Station began at 0600 hours Galactic Standard Time, when UEF Admiral Harrison's fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation around the Vorthan battle group. What followed redefined every alien civilization's understanding of human military capabilities. "All ships, this is Admiral Harrison." The command transmission echoed across 47 UEF vessels. "The Vorthans have attacked civilian populations and threatened our companion animals. We're not here to negotiate. We're here to demonstrate why that was a mistake." Vorthan Fleet Commander Zithkar watched his tactical displays with growing alarm. Human ships were moving with coordination patterns that defied their intelligence assessments. Instead of the emotional, reactive responses his analysts had predicted, the human fleet demonstrated surgical precision and tactical unity. "They're not behaving according to our behavioral models," his tactical officer reported nervously. "Human ships are maintaining perfect formation discipline. No emotional decision-making. No tactical mistakes driven by concern for animal welfare." What the Vorthans couldn't understand was happening throughout the human fleet. In the Marine barracks of the UEF Times Defiant Asterisk, Master Sergeant Kim was briefing her assault team with a calm intensity that surprised even veteran soldiers. "Listen up," she said, looking each Marine in the eye. "The Vorthans think our animals make us weak. They think caring about our pets compromises our tactical judgment. Today, we're going to show them what humans are capable of when something threatens our pack." The Marines nodded with grim understanding. These weren't soldiers distracted by emotional attachments. These were predators whose protective instincts had been activated. "Sergeant Kim," called Private Chen, "what's the mission priority?" "Simple," Kim replied. "We secure all human and animal personnel from Vorthan-controlled areas. Anyone or anything that tries to stop us gets reminded why Earth evolved apex predators." Throughout the fleet, similar briefings were revealing the true nature of human military psychology. The aliens had observed humans caring for their animals and concluded this represented emotional vulnerability. They had missed the fundamental truth that humans weren't domesticated by their pets. They had formed the galaxy's most effective predator alliance. On the UEF flagship Times, Resolution *, Admiral Harrison stood before the main tactical display, watching Vorthan ships attempt to establish defensive positions around Kepler Station. His border collie, Admiral, sat calmly beside the command chair, occasionally tilting his head as he listened to communication chatter. "Sir," reported Commander Williams, "the Vorthans are requesting communication. They want to discuss terms." Harrison scratched Admiral's ears thoughtfully. "Put them through." Vorthan Fleet Commander Zythkar appeared on the main screen, his reptilian features showing confusion and growing concern. "Human Admiral Harrison, we seek clarification of your tactical intentions. Our intelligence suggests your species prioritizes peaceful resolution of conflicts." "Your intelligence was incomplete," Harrison replied calmly. "We do prefer peaceful solutions. But you attacked civilians and threatened our animals. That changes everything. But our analysis indicates humans are emotionally dependent on these creatures." Zythkar protested. "This dependency represents a tactical weakness we can exploit for mutual benefit." Admiral looked up at Harrison and gave a small woof. Harrison smiled grimly. "Commander Zythkar, meet Admiral. He's been my partner for 6 years. Would you like to know what he's trained to do?" The Vorthan commander leaned forward with interest, still convinced he was dealing with emotional attachment rather than military capability. "Admiral is trained in explosive detection, tactical reconnaissance, combat tracking, and emergency medical response," Harrison continued. "He can coordinate with any member of my crew using nonverbal communication. He can operate in zero gravity, hostile atmospheres, and extreme temperature environments. His reaction time is 3 times faster than human average, and his sensory capabilities exceed our best technical equipment." Zythkar processed this information with growing unease. "You're saying the animal is military equipment?" "No," Harrison replied. "I'm saying Admiral is my partner. And when someone threatens your partner, you don't negotiate. You eliminate the threat." The communication ended abruptly as UEF ships began their attack pattern. What followed became known as the Perfect Storm Assault, a coordinated military operation that demonstrated human capabilities no alien civilization had previously documented. The UEF Marines who deployed to Kepler Station moved with efficiency that defied Vorthan expectations. Instead of emotional soldiers compromised by concern for animal welfare, they encountered tactical units operating with pack mentality, precision. Sergeant Kim's team breached the station's security perimeter in 12 minutes, moving through corridors with coordinated timing that seemed almost telepathic. When they reached the civilian shelter areas, they didn't panic at the sight of trapped families with their pets. They calmly assessed the situation and implemented rescue procedures with flawless execution. "Rodriguez, establish transport corridors for civilians and animals," Kim commanded. "Chen, secure the veterinary medical bay." "Williams, coordinate with ship-based medical teams for emergency animal care." The Vorthan defenders had prepared for human forces distracted by emotional rescue operations. Instead, they faced soldiers who treated animal evacuation as a standard military objective, executing it with the same professional competence they brought to any tactical mission. But the real revelation came when Vorthan forces attempted to use captured animals as leverage against human military units. "Human soldiers," transmitted Vorthan Ground Commander Klex Vor, "we have secured several of your companion animals. Cease your advance, or we will harm them." The response was immediate and terrifying. Every human soldier in the sector turned toward the Vorthan position with predatory focus that made hardened alien warriors step backward involuntarily. "Wrong move," Kim said quietly into her communicator. "All units, priority target shift. Anyone threatening pack members gets full response authorization." What the Vorthans experienced next would become legendary throughout the galaxy. Human soldiers didn't panic or become emotionally compromised when their animals were threatened. They became more dangerous. The protective instincts that aliens had identified as weakness revealed themselves as the tactical advantage that had made humans the apex predators of Earth. The assault on the Vorthan position lasted exactly 7 minutes. When it ended, every captured animal had been safely recovered, and the Vorthan ground forces had surrendered unconditionally. "This is impossible," Commander Klex Vor reported to his fleet command. "The humans fought with coordination and tactical precision that exceeded our best military units. When we threatened their animals, they didn't become vulnerable. They became unstoppable." Similar reports flooded Vorthan command channels from across the battle zone. Human forces were operating with efficiency that defied every intelligence assessment. Rather than emotional decision-making compromised by animal welfare concerns, they demonstrated tactical superiority that seemed almost supernatural. The truth was simpler than the aliens realized. Humans hadn't been domesticated by their pets. They had formed evolutionary partnerships with other Earth species that enhanced both species' survival capabilities. Dogs didn't make humans weak. They made human pack hunting more effective. Cats didn't create emotional dependency. They enhanced human psychological resilience and stress management. The human-animal bond wasn't a vulnerability to be exploited. It was the foundation of the most successful predator alliance in galactic history. Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of the Times Resolution Asterisk, monitoring the systematic dismantling of Vorthan fleet positions throughout the sector. Human ships moved with pack coordination that alien tactical computers couldn't predict or counter. "Admiral," reported Commander Williams, "all Vorthan vessels are requesting permission to withdraw. They're offering complete evacuation of human territory in exchange for safe passage." Harrison looked down at Admiral, who was calmly watching the tactical displays. "What do you think, partner?" Admiral looked at the screen showing retreating Vorthan ships, then back at Harrison. He gave one short bark. "I agree," Harrison said. "Commander Williams, transmit our response to the Vorthan fleet. They have 12 hours to evacuate all human territory. Any Vorthan vessel remaining after that deadline will be considered hostile." "Sir, what about reparations for the colonies they attacked?" "Already handled," Harrison replied. "They're going to help us spread some very important information throughout the galaxy." 3 days later, Fleet Commander Zythkar stood before the Galactic Council, delivering a report that would fundamentally alter interspecies diplomacy for the next century. "Honored counselors," he began, "our intelligence assessment of human military capabilities was catastrophically incorrect. We assumed their emotional attachments to companion animals represented tactical vulnerabilities. We were wrong." The assembled alien representatives listened with growing amazement as Zythkar described human military operations that demonstrated coordination, efficiency, and tactical superiority beyond anything in their military databases. "The humans don't have pets," he continued. "They have symbiotic tactical partnerships with other Earth species. These relationships enhance human military capabilities rather than compromising them. When their animals are threatened, humans don't become emotionally vulnerable. They become apex predators." Counselor Vextai of the Catherian Empire raised a tentacled appendage. "Are you suggesting that human military doctrine is based on pack-hunting strategies enhanced by interspecies cooperation?" "Exactly," Zythkar confirmed. "Their animals aren't emotional dependencies, they're force multipliers. Human soldiers with companion animals demonstrate superior tactical awareness, enhanced stress resistance, and coordinated operational capabilities that exceed single-species military units." The implications rippled through the galactic community immediately. The hegemony's peaceful integration plans were quietly abandoned. Trade negotiations with human colonies began emphasizing mutual cooperation rather than resource extraction. Military planners across the galaxy started reassessing their defensive capabilities against a species that could form tactical alliances with multiple Earth animals. But the most significant change occurred in how aliens viewed the relationship between humans and their companion animals. 6 months after the Vorthan War ended, Catherian science officer Keel Moore found himself aboard a human diplomatic vessel, observing daily life among the crew. The same behaviors that had seemed like emotional weakness now revealed their true purpose. He watched Captain Martinez coordinate with her ship's therapy cats during tense diplomatic negotiations, using their calming presence to maintain psychological stability during high-stress decisions. He observed Engineer Thompson working alongside his service dog, using the animal's enhanced sensory capabilities to detect mechanical problems human instruments might miss. Most remarkably, he witnessed the human crew's response when one of their animals became ill. Instead of emotional paralysis or tactical distraction, the crew demonstrated organizational efficiency that exceeded military precision. Medical resources were allocated, schedules were adjusted, and work assignments were redistributed to ensure both animal care and mission effectiveness. "The animals aren't their weakness," Keel Moore reported to Commander Vextai. "They're the secret to human tactical superiority. Humans didn't domesticate these creatures. They formed military partnerships that enhance both species' capabilities." The final understanding came when Kilmore witnessed a human child teaching a young dog basic commands in the ship's recreation area. The patient, consistent training methods, the positive reinforcement techniques, the gradual building of trust and communication. These weren't the behaviors of a species dependent on emotional comfort animals. These were the training methods of apex predators teaching tactical skills to their pack partners. The galaxy had been watching humans form the most effective multi-species military alliance in history, and they had mistaken it for emotional vulnerability. The war ended with complete human victory, but more importantly, it established humanity's true position in galactic civilization, not as peaceful prey species dependent on emotional comfort animals, but as apex predators capable of forming tactical alliances that enhanced their already formidable capabilities. The lessons spread throughout the galaxy. Never threaten a human's pack. Ever. And in the depths of space, human colonies continued their expansion, each ship carrying not just human families, but the loyal companions who had helped their species become the most successful predators in known galactic history. The aliens had been right about one thing. Humans really were different because of their relationship with animals. They had just completely misunderstood what that relationship actually was.